So we went through the Krovim in the Mishnah, the different Krovim that were Asa, and Rabbi Yehuda said at the end, even if it's a karev, that's no longer a karev. So, for example, if a man a man loses his wife and he's no longer a son-in-law to his shver, Rabbi Yehuda said he would still be possible this. So Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Amr of Tanchum, we're on Chaf Chesamid base, about 6 lines up from the bottom. Amr of Tanchum, Amr of Tavla, Amr of Bruna, Amr Rav, Halach, Rabbi Yehuda. The halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. So if you are no longer Yishver is no longer Yishver, right? He is Yishver. This once he's Yishver, he's always Yishver, right? That's it. You're stuck.
How about the Shviga?
What? Rav Rav Nachman ain't a halach Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi says in the name of Nachman, the halach is not like Rabbi Yehuda. So if a man's wife dies and now he no longer is related to his father-in-law, he would be kosher edis. There are those who learn Rabbi Baruch Chana on this thing. In other words, we just said Rabbi Baruch Chana said that the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda, that once you're removed, you are kosher edis. We're going to hear the same thing by the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda, and we're going to infer that it's a din of what like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Baruch Chana, Ezu dorish Rabbi Yossi Aglili, uvasa elakayin alaviyim elashayfid ashayiyah b'yom mehem. And you should go to the Kahanim, the Leviim, and the Shoftim that are Sheyiyah, that are what b'yom mehem. In other words, of course you're going to go to the Dayanim in your day. You can go to the Dayanim, but not in your day. It doesn't make any sense. So what does it mean? Sheyiyah b'yom mehem. Elazeh shahoya korev v'nisrachik. You should go to the Dayan. He was related to you by B'yom mehem, that he's related to you now. But if he's no longer related to you, he's not right. If no longer related to you, then you could go to that dayan. He's a kosher dayan. So that's the halacha. It's not like Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda would hold what he's not a good dayan because he's still your relative. Rabbi Baruch Chana, Rabbi Yochanan, halach Rabbi Yossi Aglili. So now we can go ahead and infer the halacha Rabbi Yossi Aglili in Dayanis. We can infer the Indian Edis of or Dayanis according to the halachas like not like Rabbi Yehuda. A Maisa Bnei Chamua, the Mar Ukva. The Bnei Chamur, the sons of the father-in-law of Mar Ukva. In other words, they're Mar Ukva's brother-in-laws. Guys, right? These are the sons of the father-in-law. Sometimes the Gemara says funny things. It could have just said the Gislei. Okay. Bnei Chamur, the Mar Ukva. The sons of the father-in-law of Mar Ukva's brother-in-laws, Kroivim, they were Kroivim, Binisrachku. And their wives died, and no longer, but right, so now no longer brother-in-law, right? In other words, Mar Ukva lost his wife, right? Havi Asul Kamei Ladina, they came in front of Mar Ukva for a din. Amalahu Pasilna L'chu Ladina, I'm pasul to Paskin. Amulei, they told him, my Daitchak Rabbi Yehuda, that we're still Kroivim. I'm bringing a letter from Eretz Yisrael. They don't like Rabbi Yehuda. That the halach is not like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore you are not a karev, and therefore you're not a karev, and therefore you could paskin. Amalahu. Marukva told them, you think like I'm stuck to you like a piece of wax on a wall? I didn't say I'm puzzled to judge a case. You're not going to listen to me. In other words, if you know that they're not going to listen to the case, the dayan shouldn't judge the case. So in other words, the reason I'm not going to judge a case is not because I can't judge a case halachically. I can't judge. You're not going to listen to me. If you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to judge a case. So in other words, we bring in Maisa to show that halacha, in fact, is not like Rabbi Yehuda. The fact that once you're a karev in Israchu, you're no longer a karev. Now the next part of the Mishnah said that an oyev. We said an oyev can't judge or be an aid, or a soine can't judge and be an aid. The Gemara said, what is an oyev? It's a sheshvina. That's the one who is a groomsman. And who's a soine? Someone that 3 days because of dislike does not go ahead and talk to you. And the Chacham said, that was Rabbi, I guess Rabbi Yehuda. They said that you were not chayish people for this. Okay. So therefore, you would be kosher. How many days is he a sheshvina that he can't go ahead and is it forever? You go to a wedding and you're shishvin forever. You kashal you pasal edis or pasal dayanis. So the kama amrav Abba amrav Yemya amarav kol shiva yemei Mishnah. All the 7 days. The 7 days in the Mishnah.
Anyone that attends the wedding is called a shishvina?
No, Shishvina was the guy's this best man. Guy, you're shy man, your car, you guys, your buddy, your good buddy. No, no, absolutely not. Anyway, get me started with that. Anyway, so Kol Shiv Yemei Mishnah, all the 7 days in the Mishnah, that would be Pasal Eidis and Dayanis. Rabbanan, Mishmei the Rava, Rabbanan said the name of Rava, Afilu Miyar Misha and Ve'elach. 1 day. Well, only the day of the wedding. That's it. And then Vaita.
Guys going to a din Torah and you'll share about this?
So Kol Shalai Dibra about 3 days. Tan Rabbanan. Okay, so what does the pasuk say? Pasuk says, "Oy b'chol even asher yamus ba b'loy ra'is." This is speaking about someone who kills b'shoigeg. So you hit him with a stone without seeing. V'yapel alav, and it falls on him. V'yamas, and he dies. V'hu loy oyev loy, and the person who hit him with the stone does not hate him. He's not his enemy. V'loy mevakesh ra'asay, nor does he seek what his ra. So from this pasuk, we're gonna extrapolate certain halachas. So what does the Gemara? What does the Gemara say? Tan Rabbanan, v'hu loy oyev loy, and now we dash in loy. He doesn't hate him. What it says that what yi'idena, that he doesn't hate him. Yi'idena, then what he can be mechayiv him galus. But if he hates him, he can't. V'loy mevakesh ra'asai, the pasuk says that means l'inyan dayanis, right? Yidinenu, then he could judge him. So from those words, we're extrapolating that if you're oyev or mevakesh there, you can't go ahead and judge him, or testify or judge. Ashkei soine, that we find from this pasuk a soine is pasal. Oyev minalan. How do you know something that oyev? Says the Gemara, kari bay in the pasuk. Hachi, read the pasuk like this: V'hu loy oyev loy, loy oyev loy. No, a play on words. V'hu loy oyev loy. He's not his enemy. Loy oyev loy. Read it that way, right? And he doesn't love him, because if he loves him, then what? Then yedena. V'lo yivakesh ra'asai, v'lo yitayvasai, right? But then yedinenu, then he can go ahead and judge him. Says the way midi oyev k'siv. It's a nice cute thing to say oyev, right? It rhymes, but it doesn't say that. Ella, it's not a pasuk, guys. Ella misvarahu. It's a svara. It's a svara that an oyev can't go ahead and judge. Or again, I keep on saying judge or testify. It's the same thing, right? Oyev my taima mishum demerachke daite. The reason why oyev is because he distanced himself. He's gonna go and look for his beard. Oyev shemikarv daite, and oyev is going to be the opposite. In other words, you can't be even-handed. An oyev is going to be too negative, and oyev is going to be too positive. So you can't go ahead and judge. Rabbanon. Now the Rabbanon said that we're not chayish a person for this. The Rabbanan in the Mishnah said that we're not. No, nechshu Yisrael al edis sheker. This again by edis. Highly oyev loy mevakesh raslay my darish bay. What do you do with this drasha? So chad l'dayin, that a dayin can't judge if he hates him. In other words, this din that the Chacham said is linyan edis. We're not chayish that linyan edis, that a guy would lie, but a dayanis he would be puzzle. The idach and the second part of the pasuk, right? Kedetanya. The Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, v'hulei oyev loy v'lei mevakesh ra'asai mikan l'shnei talmid chacham shesaynim zezeh two lechem that do not have great feelings towards each other shein yoshim b'din ke'echad, they can't judge a case. Now forget about the litigants, but they themselves, if in other words, the dayanim have to get along. But if they're negative feelings, then they can't judge. They can't judge the case. Okay, Kate said boitkin esa edim. How do you go ahead and check out the edim? You want to check out the edim. Again, Adis is a very powerful thing because we trust these guys. Adim very, very powerful. Adim tell you this guy killed, they can kill you. Adis can kill you. It's a very, very powerful. Dinei Mominus, they can chayiv your money. They're very, very. It's a very, very powerful tool. So l'chayra, where do you know that you have to check them out? So Kate said, "But going to say them, they would go ahead and bring them into a room. They would go ahead and they would bring them into a room, uma'aymin aleihem, and they would scare them that they should tell the truth. The Gemara is going to say, how did they scare them? Umaytzinas kol adam lachutz. They would go ahead and send everybody out, right? Anyone in there they send out. Umishayrin es hagadol shebehem, and they would leave the aid. They would leave the aid that's there, and I think the Bali Dinim are also there. How do you know that this one is chayiv? Im Amar, if the aid says, "Hu Amali shani chayiv loy," he said that what to me? He said to me, "Ani chayiv loy." The loiva said to him, "I'm chayiv." In other words, the loiva told an aid, "I'm chayiv." Or ish ploini Amali shu chayiv loy, or so and so told me that this person is chayiv. So he asked the aid, "How do you know that Ruvain owes him $100?" Well, after all, Ruvain told me he owes him $100. Or Shimon told me that Ruvain owes him $100, owes somebody else $100. If that's the case, like omaklum, that they're not going to makabel that as edis. That's not edis, because a mikra that a person says there, it's possible he's saying it because he doesn't want to appear like a rich guy. In other words, a person can say something to deflect. But the reason why he's saying he owes people money is to deflect that people shouldn't think he's a wealthy person. So that he said that is not a raya. In fact, that he owes him the money. Ad sheyoymar, he has to say, I saw the toiveya, I saw this person, and he said, ubefanenu, and in front of us, hoydaloi. I saw the malva claim from the loiva, and in front of us, he admitted that he owed him the money. In that case, then it's a kosher aid. They go ahead and bring in the second aid, and they ask them the same questions. In nimsa devrei mechuvanim, if you find their words are they in line with each other, they noisim v'noisin bezdin will go ahead and begin the court case and going back at each other based upon their claims. B'davar. So in other words, you went ahead and you ascertained these are edim, and then you would go ahead based upon what they heard. They would go ahead and have a noisim v'noisin b'davar.
The guy could say he paid him back because he doesn't have to have witness when he paid him back.
Excuse me?
The guy could say,
There's no edis. There's nothing you don't have to say anything. There's no edim. There's no edim. There's no edim. There's an edim that is a kosher aid. Now, this guy is not believed to say he paid him back unless he has edim. Again, Mendy, that's not the sugya. The sugya is simply to ascertain who's kosher edim or not. We're not going with the koyach. Understand? We're not dealing with the koyach hataina over here. What you could claim, but you can't claim, star, no star. We're not discussing that. We're simply discussing, how it works, right? How to go ahead and get Adam. That's what we're discussing. So now, they go through it. In Shnayim Oimrim Zakai, two people say Zakai, the Echad Omer Chayiv, and one says Chayiv. The halacha is Zakai. Okay, why? Achrei Rabim Lahatos. You always give to the majority. Shnayim Oimrim Chayiv, ve'echad is Zakai, then Chayiv. You go after that because echad is Chayiv, ve'echad is Zakai. Afilu Shnayim Zakim or Shnayim Chayavim, ve'echad Oimrim Eini Yodeya, right? Gomru Esadava, right? They go ahead. Excuse me, I skipped. Okay, so now if they go ahead, you have echad. So one says chayiv, one says zakai. Afilu shnayim mizakim, or two say zakai, or shnayim mechayavim, or two people say chayiv. So you don't have a third. You don't have a third party over here. Good. Then what's the din? Then you see for dayanim. Now, guys, listen. Listen to this case outside. If we have three people. Two said Yechayev, and one said your potter, or whatever. The majority would win. Now, let's say two people say Yechayev, and the third party says, I don't know. So notice, had he paskin, these would win. If he says nothing, we have to go ahead and add dayanim. Because without three, we don't have a bezdin. Without three, we don't have a bezdin. So in other words, if you think how counterintuitive this is. Think how counterintuitive this is. Two people say Yechayev, One people says you're not. The two people chayiv, you win. Two people say you're chayiv, and the third party says I don't know. You don't win. Why not? Because you don't have a bezdin. When he says any yadeya, you don't have a bezdin. As soon as you say any yadeya, you don't have a bezdin. It goes against logic, but you don't have a bezdin. You don't have a bezdin. Now, how many do you add? How many do you add? Now, fellas, so listen. If two people say yechayev, one person says I don't know, what do? How many dayanim would you think you add? Why? You have two already. I would say you add one. I would say you add one, right? That's what you would think. So if you look at the lashon of the Mishnah, it doesn't say that. If you look at the lashon of the Mishnah, what does it say? It says Yosifu hadayonin. You add on dayonin. You add two. You add two. Now, says the Rambam why? Says you have two saying chayiv. If you add one, this one person might say potter. Then the one who said any yodeya might wake up and he'll say what? Potter. And therefore you have four. So you need to add two to go ahead and keep it odd. Now, lest you asked, Rabbi, didn't we have this somewhere? And we said the guy, once he opens his mouth, he says, Eino Yedei, he's out, right? So that's the dialogue between the Rambam and the Ravid in Perek Ches from Hilchas Sanhedrin. That din that we said, Eino Yedei, you're out, is by Dinei Nefashis. That din we said, Eino Yedei, you're out, is by Dinei Nefashis. Good. Remember, we had that, guys. That was the sugya. How do you get, for dinei nefashis, you had to always get a majority of two. Remember, here was the problem. If it's a bezina is 23, you only have 13:10 or 12:11, but you need a majority of two. So we said, how do you get that? By adding on, right? That's by adding on. So the adding on was by dinei nefashis. So okay, so therefore we Eino Yodea, we make like you don't know, and so we needed two. So over here, it's speaking. This is according to Rambam by Dini Mominus. The other guy can open his mouth again. The one that says Eino Yodea. Since he can open his mouth again, you need five instead of four. So if you add only one, you have three. Plus the other guy Eino Yodea doesn't know is four. You have a problem. So therefore, you add two to make sure. Guys, good.
You stick to vision. You don't have a third time, right? A fourth time. So
What's the case?
Two chayiv and one Eino Yodea.
Okay, right.
So the two chayiv is Rabin.
And it's not a Rabbi, it's not a Bezdin. Not a Bezdin, because you don't have three.
Like
Okay, so now what happens? So add one. What's that question? Add one. The answer is if you add one, what happens if the other guy wakes up and now they're two? That's why you add two. That's why. Yeah. So again, that's really the Gemara. We're trying to figure out, comparing this to the first parak where you said it doesn't count at all. That's dinei nefashis, but this is dinei mamis. So very good shmak. Once they've completed the matter, again, dinei mamis. How do you know the dayan? You see the guy walking out with his tail between his legs. He's lost. And you say to him, you know what? I'm sorry, I couldn't help you. I wanted to, but I couldn't. How do you know you don't say that? What can I do? This person, it says, a person of Rachel, he goes ahead. He's Rachel is a peddler. Again, so therefore don't say anything. Okay, so what would they tell him? We said, Nasim up to the Gemara and Chavtes Amid Aleph. So therefore, they scared the Dayanim. The Dayanim scared the Eidim. What would they tell the Eidim to scare him? What exactly would they say? So says the Gemara, Hachi Aminan Lahu. This is what they would tell him. Amrav Yehuda Hachi Aminan Lahu. Nisiyim v'ruach v'geshem ein. There's no clouds, there's no wind, there's no rain. Ish mishalel b'mata sheker. A person who lords himself by saying Yeda Sheker. So saying, you know what? You're saying Yeda Sheker is going to cause famine because there's not going to be any rain. So Amar Rava Yachli Lemeimar. These Eidim will say to themselves, Shev Shani Havi Kafna. You can have 7 years of famine. Va'abava Umna Lechalef, and it doesn't go reach it doesn't reach the door of an umin. In other words, I'll be samich on myself. So there's no rain, but I'll be samich on my business. I'll make money. In other words, this is enough. Since they could tie to this, that I'll be samich on my parnasa, on whatever I do, it's not scary enough.
Right.
That's not going to scare them. So that's not going to scare them. Ella, you want to scare them? Ella, Amar Rabbi, here's how you scare them. Amrina Lahu, you tell them, Mepitz v'cherev, Mepitz is a club, cherev v'chetshana, and a sword and a sharp arrow. Ish eine brayeu et sheker. This is what this causes. You know what happens? War and destruction is caused by a person who's eine ede sheker. So Amar Rav Ashi, Yachal Meimar, Shev Shani Havi Meisna. There's a magefa. There's a plague for 7 years. V'inish b'lei shenil lo shachiv, and the guy is not going to die before his time. So no, I'm supposed to go. I'm supposed to go. Every bullet has its name. You know. Okay. In other words, this is not enough to scare him. El Amar Rav Ashi, you want to scare them? Amali Nasin Bar Mar Zutra said Nusin Bar Mar Zutra Amrinan Lahu. We say the aiding to scare them. Sade Shakre Ugre Zili. Sade Shakre, even Ugre, the ones who go ahead and hire them Zili. They're what they are considered zeal, junk. The worst thing you could tell a person is that you're a lowlife. The first thing a person feel that you're contemptuous. No one cares for you. Can you imagine? You go ahead and rent. You go ahead and hire Edi Sheker. The person who hires Edi Sheker will feel these people Edi Sheker are nothing. They're garbage. Can you imagine? They're hiring the Edi Sheker for their own good, and they'll think of them as garbage. That's a scary thing. A person's reputation, guys, a person's reputation. Famine, murder, what? Your reputation? What people think of you? That's a terrible thing. People will think of these people who they hire as lowlifes. So there's a Maisa with Achav and his wife Ezevel, and there was an individual who had a vineyard. This individual's name was what's his name? Navos HaYisraeli. So he had a vineyard. She hired Ede Sheker. She hired Ede Sheker to say this, and he can get the vineyard. Okay? So here's the pasuk that they bring. This is a pasuk that proves that the hired Ede Sheker is considered garbage. What does it say? Dichsiv, Vaishivu Shnayim Anoshim, and you'll go ahead and set up there 2 Anoshim, B'nai Belial. B'nai Belial means Beli Ol Malchus Shemayim. Guys, this is the lashon used by the people of Binyamin that were ma'anis the Pelegesh. It's a low-life lashon. Belial means Beli Ol Malchus Shemayim. We're caught, you're saying, you'll rent who? You'll rent people who are Beli Ol Malchus Shemayim. So you see that what? That they're held in such low esteem. Negdoi, v'yiduhu, they'll testify lamer, they curse the king and therefore and Hashem and therefore. But why do you see? What's the point? They called the people they hired what? B'nai Belial. They called the people they hired B'nai Belial. B'nai Belial. That's the raya. So Imamahu Amali Achiyom B'Fanenu Hoy Daloishu Chayv Lematayim. He has to say, in other words, it's not enough to say you heard from the guy himself or you heard from another person. It has to be moida to me. Messiah Leila Rav Yehuda. This is a proof to Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda Marav. Tzarich sheyomer atem edai. You have to say, the Yad Ramah says that the raya from the Mishnah is the lashon of hoida. It doesn't say v'lei Omar, but hoida, lashon of hoida. You are my edim. By saying you are my edim, designating the edim. Now the Malva has to designate the edim. The Loiva could agree to it. Okay. Itmanami Amrav Chia Bar Abba Amrav Yochanan Tanyanami. So Fitzarach Sheyomer. You have the big parentheses. Just let's be gyrus on the big parentheses. Fitzarach Sheyomer Atem Edai, and you have to say you are my edim. Tanyanami Hachi Manali Biyadcha. A guy says you have 100 zuzin of mine in your hands. Amaloi Hein. It's true. Lamachar Amaloi Tenuali. The next day he says what? Give it to me. Amaloi Mishatani Yibachar. I was just joking with you. Pata. He's Pata. You know why? The reason he said Mishatani Ilcha. Why is he wants to tell him that, you know what? I don't want to be a rich guy. Not only that, I feel Hichmin Loy Edim. Even if the Malva would go ahead and hide Edim. Achure Geda behind the fence. V'amaloi Manali Biyadcha. Right. Amalei Hain. And he says, you want to be made in front of so-and-so? And these guys are hiding behind the fence. And you know, I'm scared. Maybe they're going to force me to din. Even though there's Edim, but you didn't designate the Edim. You didn't say Ata Edai. They're hiding behind the fence. Nonetheless, it could be true. However, it doesn't make a difference. True or not, you can't bring this guy to court because he can taina mishatani l'bcha. Okay, ve'ain taina l'mesis, but you don't make a claim for a mesis. What? All of a sudden, what is this doing here? What's a mesis? A mesis is a person who incites a person to do an avera. So the Gemara is flowing along well with a Mishnah, discussing, right? And all of a sudden, punked. Ve'ain taina l'mesis. Mesis man de koshmai, says the Gemara. Veret vegan a mesis. Yeah, Baruch. It means who's speaking about an mesis, right? Who's speaking about a mesis? Says the Gemara. Chsui mechsura. Kenny, should I explain it to you again?
Because you went a translation.
Chsui mechsura v'hachi ktani. It's missing words, and here's the way you have to learn it. Im loy toyin. If he doesn't make the claim of Meshatani, ain't Tayin in loy. However, Ubedin in Nefashais, Afagav loy Tayin, even if he doesn't come up with a claim, Tayin in loy. But when it comes to Din in Nefashais, fellas, Vetzilu Esa, even if this guy doesn't, in other words, you don't need a lawyer in Jewish court for Din in Nefashais, you know? You have the built-in Jewish lawyers. The judges will do the job for you. Tayin in loy. They'll go ahead and make the claim. Okay? So Din in Mamonis did not. Din in Nefashais, yes. However, if the court case is about a mesis, a guy who incites other people, then for that mesis, we won't go ahead and make a claim. For that mesis, we won't make a claim. Maishna mesis, why is the mesis different? Rav Chama bar Chanina, Mipirkei de Rav Chanina bar Abba Shmieli, from the learnings, the teachings of Rav Chia bar Abba, I heard, shiny mesis, the Rachmana Omar, don't have any Rachmanas on a mesis. Where do you know you don't make a claim for a mesis, guys? From the original snake. From the original snake. Now, you go back to the original Chet of Adam Arishan, fellas. Kadosh Baruch Adam eats Meitzadas. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ayeka, what are you doing? Goes through the whole. Isha, Mazus Asis. Nachash Shishiani. When it comes to the Nachash, Hashem does not give him a chance to answer. He doesn't tell Nachash, what did you do? Why? Why not? Because he's a mesis, right? Minachash hakadmoni. Dam some loy. Harbe tainas hoyoloy lenachash, right? Letoyin. He had many things he could have said. V'loy toyin, and we're not timing for him. If they maloy toyin loy Hakadosh Baruch Hu, if you shaloy toyin who, you're not timing for a mesis. My havelay lememid. You know what he could have said, guys? Divrei Arav, v'divrei Talmid, divrei Mishomin. Divrei Arav Shaimin. Who do you listen to? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. The Talmud, the Nachash says, eat from the Eitz Hadas. Divrei Arav, the Divrei Talmud, rhetorically, Divrei Mishomim, who do you listen to? Right? So, in other words, every mesis can tie to that. So Hashem did not give him a chance to tie to that. So the question is, how could you ever be mechayiv a mesis? Can't every mesis go ahead and say, Divrei Arav, Divrei Talmud, Divrei Mishomim? Let's look at Taisus, guys. Again, question. Can't every mesis make that claim? So Hashem would make the claim for the Nachash, but if you learn a little bit Gemara, any mesis can go ahead in court and say, they should have listened to me. Says Taisus, Divrei Arav, Divrei Talmud, Vim Taimar, Im Kain, Kol mesis yifter atzmai, ba'oisei taina. Every mesis should get off the hook with this claim. They shouldn't have listened to me. They should have listened to Hashem. V'yish leimar, the Dafka Nachash, shalei nitztavesh lo lehesis. Dafka the Nachash can make this claim because he was never going ahead and commanded not to be a mesis. V'lei nenash, el lefisha bos lekal al yadai. He's only punished because the takala came through his hand. Avo mesis and nitztavesh lo lehesis, nimsa kemesis over. In other words, guys, every mesis in the future, what is he going to say? They shouldn't have listened to me? But you were commanded not to be a mesis. Right. In other words, you can't make that. So good, you can make that claim, but you were commanded not to be a mesis. The Nachash, only the Nachash could have said this. Why? Because he wasn't commanded not to be a mesis. But we are commanded not to be a mesis. So Memela what? No person in the future can say they shouldn't have listened to me. You're right. They shouldn't have listened to you. But what did you do? You were a mesis, and you were commanded not to be a mesis. Okay. What? Well, again, Chava was. That's why the woman was punished more than the man. Because she was mesis, because she did two things. She ate and she got him to, for sure. You should be smiling when you said that. You have a smile on your face.
She wasn't told that to eat that. She wasn't told. Maybe you didn't tell her. Told other.
Okay, we'll discuss this in a second. Okay, says the Gemara. since you're discussing the Nachash and you're discussing the original Ched Eitzadas, anyone who adds on Gaireya. If you add on something, you detract. Shenemar, Amar Elokim, Hashem said, Lo sochel mimenu, don't eat from it, v'leisigu ba, and do not touch it. So what did she do? She touched it. Okay, let's look at. Okay, let's spend a little time on this. Look at Rashi, guys. Guys, I'm going to spend a little bit digressing. Okay, she added on leisugu ba, and that led to her eating from the Eitzadas. Good. So if it says in Rashi, leisugu ba, Hakadosh Baruch Hu his hiram, Hakadosh Baruch Hu was not muzar them al hanagia about touching. When we toich Tosefes giru shedachaf hanachash es Chava ela Elon, Chava was pushed up against the tree, ad shenagaba, and she touched the tree. Amallah said the Nachash to Chava, Re'i she'ein misa al hanagia. Look, you didn't die by touching. Af al achila lo tamusi. You won't die by what? By eating. So the Nachash pushes up against the tree, and Nachash tells her, Kishem she'ein misa b'negia, kachem misa b'achila. Guys, there's a huge kasha here. That's the kasha. Who added on, you can't touch? Right? She did. If you make a lie, and the Nachash, I lied. I said what? You can't eat and you can't touch. You know you can't touch, right? The Nachash pushes up against the tree, and what? Says, look, you didn't die. You're convinced to eat. Why in the world would she be convinced by her own lie? She made it up. Why would she be convinced? It's a bomb kasha. It's a Veltz kasha. It's a Veltz kasha. So let's spend a little time on it. Let's see the Taras Chaim. I sent out a Taras Chaim, guys.
Maybe she held out a siyag. The siyag is just as bad as they.
I know what siyag. I know anything about a siyag. Everyone knows a little bit about this, but they don't know the truth. I'm going to bring the Taras Chaim, and I'm going to tell you that it may be Pshat in the Gemara. It's not Pshat in Rashi. He's arguing on Rashi.
How did the Nachash know that Hashem didn't say don't touch it? Or he guessed?
The Nachash?
If the Nachash said touch it, nothing's going to happen to you.
The Nachash was given a job. That was his job, to get it to eat. So obviously knew that this was the thing was to eat. I mean, that was his job, right? He had one thing and okay. So now, Amar Elikim, lo sochli mimenu leisigu ba. When we toichat Tosefes, and a result of this Tosefes, result of this adding on Giru, it caused the detraction. Shedachaf hanachash eschava ela Elon at shenagabai amalok kashem shemisa begina kachem misa b'achila. V'mtaymar kivin the yad chava shlein etztava on the gia. Since Chava knew she wasn't commanded on the gia, amai hishkichal atzma b'derei nachash. Why'd she listen to the words of the nachash? B'masha amalok kashem shemisa b'negia v'yesh leimar. The b'shash shetziva kadosh baruch hu la'adam shloi oichel min ha'etz. When Adam was created, not to eat from the Eitz Hadas, Chava wasn't there. And she didn't hear the tzivoy. As a matter of fact, according to the text of the pasuk, she wasn't even created yet. The hachish mashma b'dechsiv vayetzav Hashem Elokim al Adam leimar. What does leimar mean? Leich emar, guys. Leimar is nutrikin. Leich emar. Go say. So go tell her. Mikol Eitzagan. Ela she'achakach amar lo Adam lechava. Adam told her. Es mitzvahs Hashem. Shlelechem in eitz. Ulefisha nashim daitin kalis. Since women are very what's the word? Gullible. Lekach asal sayog. Adam made a sayog v'geder v'hoisif lala tzivoy, and he added on the tzivoy shel makom v'amala shekadosh baruch hu asa gam anigia kedei shetisrachik mimenu legamri, that you'd stay away from it. The kivin shechava hoises svura shekadosh baruch hu asa gam anigia, since she thought that Hashem asid nagia lekach kishedach v'anachash ad shenaga b'ilan v'lei mesa heminalai. She believed in nachash shekem shein misa b'nagia kachem misa b'chila. In other words, according to this, Adam added on. According to this, Adam added on. The Chizkiya the Yolef mehacha shekola moisif gareya mimasha hoisif Adam lechava kayolef. Not the Chava, but he learned that from over here. They kain ach lechava v'garma shegamu achal mimeno. The kivin sheachal he v'lei mesa achal gamhu. He said, "Oh, you didn't die, you won't die either." In other words, so he convinced also. So again, as pshat in the Gemara, we have pshat in the Gemara. What's the Gemara says? If the Gemara says you add it on to like look be medayik. Amar lekim leisochel mimenu v'leisiguba. Now the lashon of the Gemara is Chava speaking to the Nachash. According to the Torah Chaim, it should have been by the Tzava. It should have been going on Adam. This is going on Chava. This is Chava's words. Amar lekim leisochel mimenu v'leisiguba. She's adding it on. Again, the way the Torah Chaim is learning, he added it on. But the words of the pasuk, the words of the Gemara guys quoting the Torah is quoting Chava adding it on. So that's why the Torah Chaim is shver. You hear me? Okay, so I'll share with you. I unfortunately I don't have the sefer I have in school. I don't know what happened to it. The Maharal wrote a pirush on Rashi called the Gurari, guys. The Maharal wrote a pirush on the Maharal wrote the Gurari. Rashi says Hoisifa ala tzivoy. Rashi says openly Hoisifa. She added onto it. Rashi says in Mefurish. Here's the way Rashi learns. Here's the way that Maharal learns. Very geschmack. Why can't you eat basa b'chalav? Says in the Torah, "Le'savashel gedi b'chalev imo." Why can't you eat meat and fish? If you eat meat and fish, are you over any issa, guys? Why don't we eat meat and fish? Sakana. In other words, sakana. Sakana is different than a tzivui. A tzivui is what? It's a mitzvah. It's a lav. I can't eat basa b'chalav. I can't eat chaza. That's a lav. You can't eat certain things because it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's sakana. Chava thought, this is the Maharal, guys. Chava thought when Hashem told Adam not to eat from the Eitz Hadas, or she heard it also, according to Maharal, she didn't take it as a mitzvah. She took it as an Eitz Tova. She took it as it's a sakana. Now, if it's sakana, sometimes the closer you get to something, the more dangerous it is. I'll tell you, Maisa. There's in the rainforest, there are little frogs, guys, and they're very colorful. They're called what? They're called poison dart frogs. Poison dart frogs. The native Indians take their darts and they rub it on the secretion and they use it to go ahead and kill prey. There's one called Denibits terribilius. Denibrates is Latin for frog. Terribilius is obviously terrible. It's golden. It's a golden frog. Very, very hard to find. And National Geographic, a guy was doing a series on this, and he found them. He put on a leather glove. He touched it, and his hand went numb. His hand went numb. The toxin from this frog went through the leather glove, touched his finger went numb. So she felt that getting close to the tree, if it's sakana, it's like radioactivity, or like this frog. And therefore, she really was convinced that since it's sakana, even touching the tree would be a sakana. Memela, when she was pushed against the tree, so she was Maisif on the tzivoy. She added leisiguba. Why did she add leisiguba, guys? Right? Again, it's not speaking about a woman bisman hazeh. We're speaking about before the chait. Why did she add it in the first place? That's another kasha. Why did she add it? Right? And the answer is because of a mistake thinking, says the Maharal, that it was sakana. And therefore, if it's sakana, I can't even go near it. And therefore, she was convinced. And that's why, she was convinced. Why? Because she made it up, but she, based upon not a false premise. I mean, yes, a false premise, but not because of the tzivay, because it's sakana. I like that pshat. I think it makes a lot of sense because it answers two questions. One, it answers that she added it, not Adam. Everyone says Adam added it, doesn't fit in. She added it. And Sveitens, why did she add it? No one asked that question. Why in the world did she? She added it based upon her false understanding of what the tzivui, that it wasn't a tzivui, but it was a fact of sakana. That was the Maharal. Getting back to our regular scheduled program. Okay, so this is a case of Kol HaMoisiv Gareya. Another case is Mashiach Amatuans in the bottom of Hacha. Amasayim v'chetzi arkoi. This is going on the Aron, guys. How big is the Aron? Amasayim v'chetzi arkoi. It's 2.5 amas. Right? Take away the aleph. What does it say? Masayim v'chetzi. What's Masayim? 200. So one aleph. You go ahead. One aleph goes from 2.5 to what? 201. I mean, it's Rav Ashi Amar, Ashtei Mesra Yeriyos. It says that the Yeriyos HaMishkan were made from 11 Yeriyos. If you take away the ayin, what does it become? Shtei. So you see that you go ahead, one letter can go ahead and just destroy everything. Rabbi, Leishanu ela da'amim mishatani b'cha. Leishanu that what? Leishanu that he's believed that he doesn't owe him the money. Leishanu is put up by right. If he doesn't say v'ata edai, he says he's moida, but doesn't say v'ata edai. He's moida again. He's put in this at the ela da'amar mishatani b'cha. Aval Omar on the base. Let's say he denies it all. In other words, guys, if he says he's Maida but not in front of Adam, he could say Meshatani B'cha. What happens if he's Maida? The guy then comes and says, pay up. And Meshatani. He says what? He says, Nishka Tzoygen and Nishka Floygen, it never happened. Right? He says it never happened. Then Huch's a kafrin. This guy won't be able to swear. He won't be able to swear that he doesn't owe him the money. We won't trust this guy. Okay, that's the opinion. That's the opinion of Abaya. That's the opinion of Abaya. Rav Papa Breder of Ravacha Barada Hachi Amina Mishmei the Rava. Kol Mili the Kti. Anything that is what in the wind. Anything that there's no truth to it. Like the Kiri Inshi. People don't remember. So in other words, he wouldn't be Huchsa Kafin because it could be he made a claim. And he went ahead and denied the claim, and and he said that I'm kidding with you, I don't. In other words, if he wasn't telling the truth, he's not apt to remember it. So he didn't owe him the money, and therefore he would not be hufsa kafrin, right? A few cases. Hahu, there was a person, the achmin le edim, he hid edim lechavre kilsei. There was a bed, and the bed was a canopy, and it had vilines, it had curtains around the bed, and he hid Aiden behind his curtains. And Amalei, he said to the person he said to the loiva, Monali biyadcha. So Amar, hey, he said it's true. So Amar, the Malva said to him, Eri v'shachvi lahavi alach sadeh, would the person sleeping or awake, tripping awake or sleeping, be acceptable ladis? Amalei, loy, no. So he's moided to it, but he says no. So Rav Kahana, Ma Amalei loy, he said low, and that's it. In other words, these people, even though they heard, these Adim heard, you didn't say Adai, these are my Adim, therefore he doesn't have to pay. You hear this, guys? Guys are hiding behind it. He's moided to it, right? He's moided to it. Doesn't make a difference. This is not acceptable in a Jewish court. You didn't go ahead and designate Adim by saying Hem Adai, and therefore in that case, you wouldn't have to pay. That's case number one. That's case number one. Case number two, a little more bizarre. Ahu the Achmin Adim Bekivra, he hid people in a grave. L'chavre. And Amalei, he said to him, Mana li biyadcha. Amalei said, hey, it's true. So he goes, Chaye Mesa. He said, hey, it's true. So he said, Chaye Mesa lahavi alach sadeh, let the living and the dead be my edis. Amalei loy. Rav Shimon, Amalei loy. He said, no. So in other words, even though he's maida, he wasn't, that's that Adim. So in other words, the Gemara is just bringing Maisa to go ahead and buttress the pshat, that if you don't designate Adim and you're maida, you don't have to pay. Amravina, Vitem Rav Papa, Shmami Nameha, Hodam Rav Yehuda Amarav, Sarach Shiyoma Atem Edai, that you say at Edai, Leishna Ki Ama Loiva, doesn't make a difference if the Loiva says it, Leishna Ki Ama Malva, Vishasik Loiva. And it doesn't make a difference if the Malva says it and the Loiva is Sasik. Why? Taimad Amalava Loi. The reason why, guys, why are we stressing over here? Because he said no. What happens if he didn't say anything? Right? Aval Ishasik Hachanami. If he would have been quiet and not said lo, in the chanami they be kosher edim. In other words, the designation has to be with designation is either positive saying it or just not saying anything at all. But the way to go ahead and invert it, you have to say openly no. Ahudavi korile kav rashu. There was a person Nebuch. This person was called a kav of death. He had a kav of shtaris on his head. So Amar. Man masik bi ela plani or plani. In other words, his reputation was he owes many, many people money. And he said, oh, I only owe so and so. In other words, he wanted to go ahead and deflect that he doesn't owe so many, because I only owe so and so. Asu tavu ladina, kamed Rav Nachman, so and so came and would tevei him in front of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman, adam asli shaloi lasbi es atzmai. A person does it not to go ahead and satiate himself, meaning he doesn't want to appear what as a wealthy fellow. So that he said I only owe so and so is only because he wanted to appear that what that he's not wealthy. It says Rashi, go up. Shloila haspia goes. Don't make a mistake. Hashbia. It's haspia. Lashon sava. Shloile rois saveya mimaman. He should not appear what zat. You know what zat means? Zat. Zat is, let's say a guy eats a hot cinnamon Danish on a Shabbos morning, sitting there learning. That's zat. I know a person who likes to do that. He's zat. Right? And cooked azay. He looks like that too. They call the guy a rat who went ahead with shach badinre. He was lying on his money. He never spent his money. Guys, he's a rat lying on his money. Kikashach, when he was dying, Omar, planya masik bi zuze. I owe so and so money. He's on his deathbed. He goes, I owe so and so money. Basid the shachiv, after he died, asut havinu liyarshim. They went ahead and they made a claim for the yarshim. Asla kamed Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi Amalu. When does a person make himself that he doesn't money rich? Hani mili mechayim. Avlachem misa late loy. If the misa not. So in other words, Yitaka owes the money. So para palga, they paid off half. Tavula dinal idich palga. The claimants went ahead and they brought him to court on the second half. And who they bring in front of us? Look, made Rabbi Chia. And Rabbi Chia argued on Rabbi Yishmael. And for Amalahu, Kashem Sha'adam Asa Shleilas Bias Atzmai. Just like a person doesn't want himself to appear wealthy and therefore say he owes money. So in other words, when he said it, he also was saying it that you shouldn't think his children are wealthy. So meaning, Rav Chia is arguing on Rabbi Yishmael. He's saying that what? In other words, if you had gone to Rav Chia initially, you wouldn't have to pay anything. Had the Yarshim gone to, if they would have, Taveya would have taken the Yarshim to din, they wouldn't have to pay anything. So Amulei, so they told him, Nazel v'nahadar. So they said to Reb Chia, the people, the Taveya, should we go v'nahader and go ahead and pay back the half that Rabbi Shmuel had been mechayev us? Amalahu kvar harazakein. Says Reb Chia, no, he ready, paskin already. You didn't come to me first. You went to him. Once he gave a psak, he gave a psak. So keep it. Now, hoida b'fnei shnayim. If you're made in front of two, you're made in front of two edim, v'kona miyadai, and you make a kinyan sudar. So you're making a kinyan, guys. Now, when you make a kinyan, right, that shafts, making a kinyan goes ahead and elevates it, right? If you look at Rashi, guys, go up Rashi. The kanami yadai, kaisvin shtar hayda. Then, if you made a kinyan, you have to write a shtar of hayda. V'af b'shlayama kisru. Even if you didn't say write it, the stam kinyan l'ksiva I made. So, guys, let's go through protocol. You have a malvin a loiva. The Malva makes a claim on the Leiva. The Leiva is made in front of two Eidim. The Eidim, they may not be around all the time. What would the norm be? You go ahead, and you want to go ahead and either you want proof. You want proof, right? So the guy says the Eidim, you don't stamazay right. You don't write. Again, you only lent with Eidim. So where's the shtar hoidah? Notice, if you make a kinyan, once you make a kinyan, right, on the schayvus, that creates the shtar. If you didn't make a kinyan, you wouldn't have to write a shtar. But once you made it, just because you just have a haidah, but once you make a kinyan on the haidah, that shafts the need to write a shtar. So that's all fit. All what I said fits in these few words. So haidah b'fnei shnayim and v'economy yadai. And in addition to the haidah, what did you do? You made a kinyan sudar, kaisvin. Then you're gonna write a shtar haidah. V'im lav. And if you don't make a kinyan, ain't kaisvin. Then you don't write a shtar haidah. If you don't write it, says Rashi, v'yafagav the amalahu atem edai. Even if you designated the edim, v'chayv l'shalim lo, and you chayv to pay. Guys, you don't want to start going around that you owe people money. It's not good for your credit score. Not good. It's not good for your credit score. So if you said what you made a kinyan, that is a schayvus to write the shtar. But stamazoi, if you moida in front of edim, right now you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay, but you don't write a shtar. Why? Because you don't stamazoi. I admit you. I owe you the money. You don't need a shtar to prove it. I don't want that shtar around. It's not going to be good for my credit score. The people are going to go ahead and find out that I owe money. It's not good. Or it's not good. Okay, says the Gemara. Shleisha. What about in front of 3? Shleishli in front of 3. V'loi kona miyadai, and you don't make a kinyan sudar. Rav Amar Koisvin. Says Rav, you would write it. And Rashi says Shleisha. Us in Bezdin, it's 3 people. We view them as a Bezdin. V'hifkirum Hefker. Remember the din of Hefker, Bezdin Hefker. They can go ahead, take the money, and give it who they want to. V'chel l'shnoisai lasais milva b'shtar. Lias b'makam haloiva lasais shliach l'kaisva. They can go ahead and make it what? A milva b'shtar, and be in the place of the loiva to make him a shliach to write it. So therefore, Bezdin you could write it even without a kinyan. However, Rasi Yoma ain't kaisvin. Says Ravasi, even 3 you're not going to write. Havi uvda v'choshlei Rav l'hoder Ravasi. There was a case in Rav was chash that Ravasi said, and he didn't write it. Even though Rav said initially you do write it, he said no. Says Amar Rav Adabarava ha'adaisa. That's a shtar ha'ida, guys. It's a shtar of your moida. Zimnin kasvinam, zim like kasvinam. Sometimes you write it, sometimes you don't. Kanife, if 3 people happen to be gathered, you don't gather them particularly on purpose. They happen to be there. V'yasve, and they're sitting there, like kasvinan. Because you didn't go out of your way to make it a bezdin. Kanfinuhu, ihu kasvinan. If he went ahead and Malva went ahead and put them all together, right? Then you're going to write it. Because why? Because then it's like a halacha of bezdin. However, Rava Amar afilu kanfiu ihu like kasvinan. You're not going to write it. The Amalahu have a alai dayani. In other words, you have to designate him as a bezdin. Guys, remember, this is speaking about dine maminis, ahidava halva. We said even hedyaitis. So unless you designate the dayanim, the number is not going to do the job. Mabar Rashi Amar afilu Amar have a alai dayani. Even if you designate the dayanim like kasvinan, ad kiboi duchte until you set a place, v'shalche, and you send for the litigants, mazmilei lebeidina, and okay, Rashi says v'shalchu. Shliach b'shmayu, a shliach in the name of these people sitting there, leloive, lemesi kamayu ledina, to come in front of a din, v'oidui, and his maida, v'hoyel v'oimid bezdin, bedin, since there's an amida bedin, nasas kamilva b'shtar, shegaluya l'chol, hilcha kasvinan. So therefore, if you go ahead, convene a bezdin, send for the loiva comes his maida, then in that case, you're going to write the shtar haida. Okay. Haida, okay, let's stop over here.